Welcome to Heartistry. Today I have extra special joy in welcoming this guest. This is somebody I met earlier in 2025 in Pakistan, in Lahore, specifically at the International Fez Ahmed Fez Festival. This is a festival I've had the chance to be a part of. I think this was my fourth time doing so. It honors the great Urdu Pakistani poet Fez Ahmed Fez. And this particular guest that I will be welcoming in shortly, like me, is a dance artist. And the beauty of this meetup is that they actually live in India. And that may not seem like a big deal, but I think as 2025 has moved forward, it is now even a bigger deal that that happened. We will get into that and so much more in our conversation. But first, let me tell you who I'll be speaking with. Today's guest is Aranyani Bhargav. Aranyani is a Bharatanatyam dancer and choreographer who began her training in 1990. Over time, Aranyani has developed her own distinctive approach to Bharatanatyam, focusing equally on the human and the divine, the religious and the secular, and the traditional and modern. This approach inspired Aranyani to explore this art form in greater depth while also engaging with other forms of movement. In 2010, Aranyani completed her postgraduate studies at the University of Oxford, where she wrote her thesis on the multiple modernities within Bharatanatyam. Since then, she has gone on to write several articles in newspapers and journals on the turbulent history of this dance form. In 2013, Aranyani conceptualized her own dance company, Vyuti, which, using her distinctive approach, attempts to offer a new and fresh perspective on Bharatanatyam. Reviewed as an astonishing product and an organic conversation between tradition and modernity, Vyuti has performed in India and abroad to critical acclaim. Aranyani also co-founded Indian Dancers for Gaza's children to raise awareness about the plight of children in Palestine, later in Lebanon, and has helped to raise significant amounts of funds through dance performances across the world as charity for paediatric charitable organizations in Gaza. Please join me in welcoming Aranyani Bhargav to Heartistry. And welcome to Heartistry, and please join me in welcoming today's guest, Aranyani Bhargav.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here and to engage in this conversation with you. I'm really looking forward to it.
Oh, likewise, likewise. Thank you again. You are in Bangalore, correct? Bangalore, yes. India. I'm, of course, in the San Francisco Bay Area. So very much appreciated that you coordinated a time that works well for both of us. So I really appreciate that. And I don't take it for granted either.
No, thank you so much for accommodating this time. I know that it's been a bit of a juggle to try and find a time that works for both of us. So I'm glad that we finally
all good things. Yes, all good things are worth the wait, right?
Yes.
Well, absolutely. In your introduction, I did give a little context to how you and I met. And I certainly want to talk a little bit more about that, not just our meeting, but why we were both in Lahore. And we'll certainly get to that alongside so many other things that make up who you are. But what I would love to do is just sort of hear a little bit more about your personal family history, eventually leading to the present. Where were you born, brought up? How did you find yourself in relationship with this dance form, and so on?
Oh, wow, that's a very expansive sort of question.
This is true.
I was born in Delhi and brought up mostly in Delhi as well. So I did school, my undergraduate studies, everything there. And it was in Delhi that I met with my guru Leela Sampson, because my parents were, although they're social workers, and
Mm,
they're in the social work and academic um, areas of work, but they were very, very culturally inclined as well. So their evenings were almost always packed with either a Kumar Gandhar performance or
mm.
a classical dance performance or something or the other. So my sister and I, as little ones, we were always kind of quite happily dragged to these programs. And it was at one of those that I saw Leela Sampson perform. And I think I was already showing it's a kind of expressing an interest in doing some dance form or another,
Okay.
and for reasons obviously unknown to anyone except a 5-year-old Aranyani, I said that this is the person that I want to learn from. And
Okay.
luckily, at the time, she was taking in students, and that's how I got connected with dance. And of course, as it is for all young kids, at first, it's kind of more like the excitement of it and just
Sure.
something extracurricular to do. But I think by the time I was 14 or 15, I think I knew that this is something that I want to pursue more seriously. Um, Even though I mean, I do remember going through a phase where everyone else was doing cooler things,
Ah,
more modern things,
sure,
like
sure.
more Western things that were, I
Yeah,
mean, that was considered cooler, like golf and basketball and playing the piano, and here I
yeah.
was doing Bharatanatyam, and so there was that element that I think I did go
Sure.
through a little bit of resistance when I was about 12, but very quickly overcame it. Uh,
Mm.
and um, and I've kind of found that as a common running thread in my life. Whenever I have resisted Bharatanatyam or tried to run away from it, it has kind of followed me, or I have managed to kind of follow it
Come
back.
back.
So
Yeah.
come back to it, yeah. So
Huh.
yeah, that's how I came to do Bharatanatyam and came to take it up as a profession.
Yeah. And how old were you when you began your training?
I was 5.
5. Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
And in those early years, was Leela Samsonji, was she residing in Delhi at that time?
yes, yes,
Okay.
she
So you
was.
were able to do consistent classes and such. And
Consistent
yeah,
classes
yeah.
exclusively with her for 16
Amazing.
years. Yeah,
Amazing.
yeah, yeah. And
Okay.
I mean, she left Delhi when she became director of Kalakshetra.
Got
And
it.
by that,
Okay.
yes, by that time I had already done 16 years of training and also my Arangetram. So
Okay.
when I said I'll follow her to Kalakshetra, she said no, no need.
And you actually went on to do your higher education at Oxford.
I
Is
did,
that
yes,
right? Okay. Was it around
yes,
that
yes.
time, your early 20s?
N- No, actually, it was. I mean, it was early 20s, but before that, so I did my college at St. Stephen's College in Delhi, and there I studied
Okay.
philosophy.
Okay.
And then after that, I did 2 years of only dancing, but not with Leela Samson.
Okay.
This was yes. After she said, "Don't follow me to Kalakshetra because I've already taught you everything that I can." After that, I kind of branched out into other forms of dance. Although I kept my practice going with
Yeah.
Bharatanatyam, but I was also uh, interested in what other forms of dance I was getting exposed to, and I was really getting interested. And Indian contemporary dance or contemporary dance in India was
Yeah.
really entering the dance world in a big way at
Okay.
the time, and I was very curious about it.
Mm.
And it also happened to be entering in a very big way and in a very different way. Of course, I mean, Indian contemporary dance has been around from the time you can argue from the time of Uday Shankar and
Absolutely.
Chan
Yeah.
Chandralekha and things like that. But I mean, people like that. But of course, it was coming back to I think my generation of people in a big
Huh.
way because of new dance companies that were emerging, and I was very curious about it. And also, I
Mm.
had kind of dug deeper into the history of Bharatanatyam, um, and gotten disillusioned quite a bit because I
Mm.
suddenly was confronted with this
Mm.
reality that this dance form came to someone like me at the cost of an entire community
Yeah.
of hereditary dancers. And that made me kind of take a pause and
Mm.
say, hang on, well, what am I doing? Should I even be performing this dance
Yeah.
form? and but how can I not? And but if I do, then how am I supposed to, make peace with this history, this very turbulent history, and this history that is it involves caste, it involves colonialism, it
Mm,
involves disenfranchisement, a lot of injustice,
yeah.
a lot of, so much turbulence.
Yeah.
Um, so at that point, I thought while I was taking a pause and kind of reflecting on how I can re-engage with Bharatanatyam, which I loved and continue to love so
Mm,
much, I went to study ballet and contemporary dance at the Liverpool Institute for Performing Arts in
okay.
the UK. Yes.
Okay. See, there
So
are
I did
already so
that.
many things I didn't know.
Right. Yeah, so I did that, and that was a lot of fun, and it also
Mm,
um it exposed me to a world of the Liverpool Institute for Performing Arts was not just a contemporary dance course. Like, it also
mm,
was very much into musical theater, and so I
okay.
got, yes, I got exposed to jazz and hip hop, and
Yeah.
I wasn't, I have to admit, I wasn't very good at them. I didn't have that the attitude that is required. I always felt a little bit out of my body when I
Yeah,
was
I get
in
it.
those
Yeah.
classes.
Yeah.
But I really, really enjoyed ballet. I really enjoyed
Mm,
the contemporary dance modules that we had. And then I came back, and I think it was at that time that I realized that um, that Bharatanatyam is something that's just such a fundamental part of not just my body, but also my mind,
mm,
that even if I tried, I wouldn't be able to, like, do something like musical theater or
yeah.
Broadway, or those kind of things. It just wasn't sitting well in my body at all. And even in the, yeah, improvisation kind of creative parts of the classes and modules, I would
Mm,
always find myself, a mudra would appear,
totally. Totally.
or
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
something would appear where I was just like, okay, Bharatanatyam is not leaving my body at all.
Yeah.
And then I came to Bangalore, and I went to the Artakalari Center for Movement Arts. They were offering a diploma as well.
Okay.
And that seemed to be a little bit more um, in my comfort zone, in the sense that it did have a Bharatanatyam module. It had a Kalari Paitu module, which is totally unfamiliar to me,
Yeah.
but very much an Indian discipline. And then it also had a host of contemporary dancers that were coming in, like visiting faculty that was coming in from various parts of the world, and
Okay.
bringing in various different techniques, from Alexander technique to, the Martha Graham technique, to all sorts of
Mm,
different contemporary dance techniques. So I was getting to explore things out of my comfort zone, but also remain in touch with the things that I was familiar with, and
yeah.
also find a way to bring them together.
Mm,
So in that sense, Atakalari was great.
yeah.
Mm, so Oxford happened a couple of years after that, because
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
after Atakalari, then I went to work with Sadaran Menon on the Chandralekha archives, because I was completely
Ah,
fascinated by her work.
ah,
And I did have the privilege of meeting with her and interacting with her a few
mm,
times, going to her house in Chennai and spending some time with her. And also when she used to visit Delhi for her production, Sharira or something like that, then, I would go to where she was staying
ah.
and just sit there quietly and
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
listen to everything, that, like, absorbing
Yeah.
everything that she was saying. And so when I got the opportunity to actually spend time at the place where she lived and created her works, and um, help with documenting and archiving, I spent almost a year there.
Mm,
And that's when I got the news that I've been accepted into Oxford. So that's when I went to Oxford.
amazing. Wow.
Yes,
Well, let's take a short pause and then we'll take it from there.
yes.
Welcome back to Heartistry. This is Farah Yasmin Sheikh, and today we are speaking with Aranyani Bhargav and hearing, my goodness, I mean, such a rich journey, even in the way that you were choosing. It really just kind of feeding your curiosity in learning both context, history, philosophy, the movement techniques, all of this. I mean, it's just and here you are now. You mentioned you've now been accepted into Oxford. What did you study there again?
So that was in 2009. I studied, ironically, contemporary Indian studies.
Okay. Okay.
I left India to study about India. Yeah, so it was a course on contemporary India, and they were
Mm,
defining contemporary India as India after 1945.
mm,
So it was, so we had modules on Indian politics, on
huh,
international relations, on sociology and anthropology, on so not very dance related directly,
sure.
political economy,
Yeah.
things like that. So,
Yeah.
but everything about India post 1945,
Yeah.
and but the good thing about the MA was that there were no restrictions on what I could write my thesis on,
Huh.
except this, that it has to be about something that happened in India after 1945.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it gave me, but Oxford has some of the best resources in the world with the Bodleian Library and access to all of the articles and scholarly journals and books
Mm.
that scholars have written, including dance scholars.
Hmm.
And they have a library there that is specifically, for South Asian studies. And I found every possible book on
Mm.
dance that I wanted to find. And so I wrote my thesis on the multiple modernities of Bharatanatyam. And my hypothesis was that Bharatanatyam is not an ancient dance form. It is not a dance form that has this 5,000-year-old unbroken tradition, but in fact is a modern dance form. And I argued in the thesis that what Rukmini Devi did, whether she
Mm.
knew it or not, was create a modern dance form.
Yeah.
The Bharatanatyam that she created was very different from the one that was performed by the Devadasis or the hereditary dancers.
Yeah.
And by making it distinct from that and removing it from the temple and bringing it onto the proscenium and then institutionalizing it in terms of um, um, the institutionalizing the education of dance in terms of Kalakshetra, where it was not a one-on-one guru shishya relationship,
Yeah.
or it was more like one teacher and students in a classroom. So in many, many ways, changing the
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
costume, changing the content, she
Sure.
modernized um, what is now known as Bharatanatyam and almost completely severed it from what the Devadasis or hereditary dancers were performing. So
Yeah.
that by itself was that itself means that and
Yeah.
everything that we practice, most of the dancers that practice Bharatanatyam now, with the exception of a few,
Mm.
um, are performing this modernized version.
Yeah.
And the modernized version has branched out into several different kinds of
Totally.
modernized versions. There's a Kalakshetra style, and then there are styles that are seen as rivals or not
Right.
rivals, but certainly alternatives to the Kalakshetra style. But I would argue that all of them are modern reconstructions of
Yeah.
what the hereditary dancers performed. So that was my thesis. And so I
Ah,
said that that's Bharatanatyam today is not an ancient dance form.
yeah.
The Bharatanatyam that we perform today is a multiply modern dance form. That
Well, and
that was my
and
argument.
yeah, and insert any other in quotes classical art form, right? I mean,
Yes,
my not having written a thesis in any way, but my feeling on a lot of these forms, or at least I can speak about Kathak, and I think in many ways you're echoing it by what you're saying about
mm,
Bharatanatyam is, in general, I think that there's a perspective. The moment we see that word classical, we think that it's sort of stagnant and there's only one way to do it. Well, these forms have always been breathing, evolving forms, right? So
absolutely.
there's no one way. And again, when you talk about oral history, and we don't now the irony is we have so much more access, right, with everything online and even learning online and or videos and this and that. Back in the day that of course was not the case, but so then it was even more like the telephone game of who did what and haha aise karo wo theek nahi hai, like all of this. And So I will say that just like I think that classical often gets consciously or not put in this category, I think sometimes to me, contemporary feels just when I hear South Asian contemporary, Indian contemporary, I often do feel it's almost like a way to justify that evolution. Like it is, but it really isn't. So I'm going to call it contemporary. So why do we even have to justify it? Do you see what I'm saying? And people have even said, oh, what you're doing in Kathak is not like traditional Kathak. Really? It's,
Sorry, my dog.
oh, good. No, 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 good. We like special guests. Go ahead, go ahead.
Ah, she just, yeah,
Anyway,
she had to make her presence known.
of
Yeah,
course.
sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you see what I'm saying? So to me, the classical versus contemporary conversation, I think ironically we're saying the same thing in both directions, actually.
yes.
I
I
do think
also, yeah,
contemporary, yeah, sorry, I'll just say I do think sometimes contemporary can be more of an amalgamation of things than maybe classical is, again, even though has evolved. But yes, but tell me your thoughts. Yeah.
yeah, no, no, I completely agree with you. I was only going to add to what you were
Yeah.
saying. I mean, I've always found these sorts of these labels, and especially when we label ourselves or label someone else
Yeah.
in this very rigid way, it becomes problematic because, like you said, our classical forms are not stagnant. They never have been. They have always been evolving. They have to. They have to. Otherwise,
Exactly.
they would just never survive. Uh,
Yeah.
and um, and also this whole question of what is classical
Exactly.
uh, and what is contemporary. Uh, those definitions, I think, uh, come from a place that they those definitions themselves are outdated.
Yeah.
Dizzy goes down and say hello. She has obediently followed me. Yeah, followed my instructions. Yeah, so I think that you have to. I think that at the time when those classifications were made,
Yeah.
perhaps they made sense
Yeah.
for a particular to serve a particular purpose. But I think even those definitions need to evolve. And I think
Yeah.
that's why now so many of us, like I noticed that when you said classical, you
Yes.
did
Yes.
this. And that's because what is classical? Even this whole question of authenticity, like what is
Yes.
authentic? What
Yeah.
is authentic was because new research keeps emerging, and to be honest, with forms that do have ancient origins, even though they
Mm-hmm.
are no longer ancient forms today,
Mm-hmm.
uh, you can't really save. Like, I mean, maybe a hereditary dancer I mean, somebody with a hereditary dance lineage would say that his or her dance form is authentic. Um, but then research is emerging that there was a dance that they appropriated
Yeah.
what is now known as Bharatanatyam from another community of dancers who
Mm.
were called Veralis, and so this is pre-Devadasi,
Wow.
pre-temple dancing. There was something from which some adaptations were made, and then it was practiced in the temples by the hereditary dancers. And similarly, adaptations have now been made for it to be performed outside of temples. And who knows where it's going to
Yeah.
go, once we are dead and gone, and the
Exactly.
future generations are performing what maybe what we now call contemporary dance will become classical for them.
Right.
Uh,
Right. Right.
you never know. So I think that these definitions, especially when it comes to labeling ourselves and labeling people, I think we should be really careful with the way that we use those definitions, and also keep in mind, and that it's important for us to
Yeah.
keep in mind that these are fluid definitions, and
Yeah.
you can't just be like, oh, this is classical and this is contemporary,
Yeah.
because there are so many places where they meet. Like tributaries of a river, there are meeting points, and then
Exactly.
sure they go their separate ways, but there are meeting points.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of beauty I feel in those meeting points, because suddenly it's like it's not the clashing of two worlds, but it's rather like a greeting point. between two
Yeah.
worlds that, yeah,
And contrast can also be complementary. And it's
absolutely.
yeah, 100%
I
agree.
mean, there's so much. If you keep an open mind to things and don't hold on to definitions too rigidly or too like
Yeah.
protectively or defensively, then I think that you liberate yourself from so much
Mm,
restriction. And I think that's what I would like to think that
yeah.
I have done with my practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, there's so much I want to say to just exactly what you said, but let's take a pause and then we'll jump into my thoughts.
Yes.
Welcome back to Heartistry. This is Farah, and today I am speaking with Aranyani Bhargav. And what you were just saying, Aranyani, it just really makes me think about, I guess the irony is we're talking about it in the context of dance and ultimately the judgment that can surround art forms, right? And yet, if we take much of what we're talking about, but almost extract dance, it's also the way that human nature, unfortunately, often works. And I'm going to actually go back to how you and I met because it even feels so relevant to the relationships that we have across borders and specifically within South Asia and more specifically between India and Pakistan, right? And so
Yes.
you and I met in February of 2025, and we were both there for the Fez International Festival in Lahore. And was that your first time there? That okay, that was your first time. I've been lucky enough to it was my fourth time being involved in the festival. And in years past, there had been small groups of artists, either representing I will say less so this time wonderfully was the most performing artist that I had engaged with at the festival from India. Previously, they had been poets, folks, literaries, and the like. And but this year, how many? It was over 20 people that came from India this time, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it was again, I can't help but just compare it to my previous experience. I had also often had other artists with me, whether from Karachi and or even the US that would perform with me, mainly musicians. And so I think because of the nature of that, I was a little bit more kind of insular into, we were moving around together. This time I actually
Mm-mm.
was on my own. And sadly, I was supposed to be there with the great Shima Karmani. And
Yes.
she was not able to come due to an injury that she sustained and fortunately has fully recovered. But
Yes.
anyway, point being is that Manisa Saiba, Salima Saiba, Fez Sab's daughters, who are, instrumental in making this festival happen, very beautifully welcomed me into interacting with all of you. And so you and I met, I think, the night before the festival, and we had just such great conversations that night. And then I met your parents who were also there. And, needless to say, it carried forward. We got a chance to see each other's performances. But again, why is that such a big deal? Um, and then I can't help but think about the fact that what even not just in those moments, and we're certainly going to talk about the amazing work that you've been doing to amplify, spotlight attention through the medium of dance and South Asian dance specifically, as far as what's happening in Gaza, Palestine, what continues to happen, regardless of, again, in quotes, a ceasefire. Um,
Oh.
but just what was that trip like for you to Pakistan? What was the relevance? What's the importance? What's the impact it left on you and or even once you went home, conversations you've had, any of the above?
Wow. It's an overwhelming question actually, but
Mm,
I think uh, at the risk of speaking for a lot of Indians, I do suspect that every Indian that travels to Pakistan, and maybe, okay, let me not say every Indian, but let's say a lot of Indians that
Mm,
travel to Pakistan and a lot of Pakistanis that travel to India, I think that they do feel what I felt, which was I felt like I was entering into uh, um, an alternative reality of some
mm,
sort, in the sense that it felt surreal to be going to Pakistan because of the histories between our two nations, and because we were once one, and because uh, there has been so much that has happened between these two countries since politically, militarily, cultural, not culturally, but like, I mean, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
there's
Well,
so
even
much
culture has been
baggage.
weaponized,
Yeah, yeah,
as
yeah.
far as
Yes,
who owns this and that. And
yes,
yeah.
true. Yeah, so just for that reason alone,
Mm,
I think it was very special to be able to go there. Because honestly, I never thought that I would be able to go there in my
yeah.
lifetime. And so that was one thing. So for that reason, it was very special. And secondly, um, it was also special because my grandparents are from Lahore.
Yeah.
And I've grown up hearing the stories of how they studied, how they grew up there, how they studied there, which colleges they went to, what happened during partition to them when they were crossing the border. And I think one of the biggest lessons that I learned from them,
Mm,
was that despite what happened to them during partition, and
yeah.
it was quite horrible, they lost a lot of members of their families, and
Mm,
there was obviously a lot of uh, insecurity, displacement. They were in refugee camps
mm,
they were just from one refugee camp to the other once they had crossed the border until they really finally settled down. But whenever they spoke about it, there was always this understanding that this was not something that was specially happening to them or
yeah.
to their religious community, that it was happening to everyone. It was happening to Hindus, it was happening to Muslims, it was happening to Sikhs, it was happening to everyone that was
Yeah.
having to do this forced migration. Um, and there were also people that chose to stay, that chose to not
Mm,
cross the
mm,
border, in spite of the fact that it was that they were living that they were choosing to live in a country that was going to be where they would be a minority.
yeah. Right.
So yeah. So and so when my parents my grandparents never spoke about this experience
Mm,
in a communal tone or in a tone of
mm,
hatred or
yeah.
bitterness towards either another religious community or the other country, which was Pakistan for them now.
Yeah.
Because Pakistan was once their country and then
Yeah.
it was no longer their country, but there was always this attachment towards Pakistan. And my grandfather and Faisal were best friends. So
Mm,
there was a connection there as well.
mm.
Um, so of course, for all of those reasons, it was really, really special. And I did go and visit where my grandparents'
I
house
know
used
I
to
was in
be.
the car when we drove
Yes, you
by
were in
and
the
we
car. Yes,
stopped and
yes.
yes.
Yes, yes,
Uh,
yes. So yeah, so you know this.
yeah.
So for all of those reasons, it was very
Yeah.
special. And then of course the piece that I was performing at the Fairs
Yeah.
Festival was based on Fair Sub's poetry. So that
Right.
was also very special. And it was a piece about Gaza, which was also very special. So I mean, in any sense of the word, that trip was very, very special. Meeting
Mm,
people like you. I
mm.
mean, I remember having you and I. It was a large gathering, but
Yes.
you and I sort of gravitated towards each
Yeah.
other and just were immersed in very, very long, deep conversations. I do remember feeling like, oh God, I really should mingle more, meet other people. I think we even discussed it where we were like, we should probably, say hello to other people as well, that sort
Yes.
of thing. But we had
Yeah,
such wonderful
we could
conversations.
have kept going, just us, and also been just fine.
Exactly.
But
Yeah. So
yeah.
it was, yeah. So that was my experience of coming to Pakistan. Yeah.
And I'm curious, when you went home and shared it and or say what you shared on social media, what was the response? Was it all very positive? Was it all very like, oh, that's amazing? I am curious to know if there was anything that you felt, yeah.
It was it was mixed, but it was not. Uh, I did expect people in India to be like, huh.
Hmm.
But surprisingly they weren't. Or if they were feeling it, they weren't
I didn't say.
saying it out loud.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but there definitely was, whether it was in a negative sense or a positive sense, there was curiosity. What was
Yes.
it like?
Yes. Yes.
Definitely, there was curiosity. Like, what was it like? What were the people like? What was um uh, uh either and you could tell that they were asking. They were very cautiously asking, either to confirm their suspicions that Pakistanis hate us Indians,
Yeah.
or to confirm their suspicions that Pakistanis and Indians are actually very similar, and
Right.
the animosity is not between the people, but it's a political thing. But for both of those, to confirm either suspicions, the question was, what was it like? So
Yes.
people were very cautious when they were asking the questions. And my experience was that the people were very welcoming. I didn't even once feel unsafe there as an
Yeah.
Indian. I did not feel like, in fact, I thought that I was treated more like a celebrity than I ought to have been, just because I was Indian, only because I was Indian,
Yeah.
not because they knew me, not because they know the name Aranyani, not because I'm a dancer. No, just because I'm
Sure.
Indian.
Sure.
It's just like, oh, aap Hindustan se
Yeah.
ho. And it
Yeah.
suddenly became like, we'll show you this, we'll show you that,
Yeah.
we really, all of that. So there was the hospitality and the warmth and it was overwhelming actually.
Mm.
And it did really, make me feel like, well, recently,
Mm.
there was a response by someone from the Pakistani Air Force,
Mm.
in response to the Indian pilot that lost his life. And
Mm.
it was a beautiful
Mm.
response. He said that our our rivalry is restricted only to a certain sphere of our lives. And so it doesn't mean that somebody like me, just because I'm from Pakistan, will not mourn the accidental death of what in war would be my rival. And he sent a
Yeah.
really beautiful condolence message saying,
Mm.
we are human beings, and our rivalry is only restricted to when we are at war, and any decent human being would condole the tragic death of this pilot who couldn't eject out of the plane as it
Yeah.
was crashing. And I think that is also so telling of how um, politicized
Yeah.
and fabricated enmity between our two countries is.
Yeah.
It is. I don't even know if it's
Well,
safe to say this, but
yes, please
that's
finish.
my
Yeah.
opinion.
I
That I
don't
think that
disagree. Yeah.
yeah.
I was
Hmm.
going to say, I don't disagree. And yet, I think over this past year, in the spring, April, May, I think sadly, wounds were reopened. And
Yes.
what I would have wholeheartedly agreed, for the most part, we certainly know there are quite a few exceptions to what you just said as well. But
Yes.
generally, I would have agreed. Sadly, even those who might have felt much more open and embracing of one another at one time, these wounds and the rhetoric it was like salt on the wound,
It
you
really was.
know?
Yes. Yeah.
And oh, it was not just so tragic what was happening, obviously what happened in Jammu Kashmir, but also then when there was the retaliation and all of that. But what hurt almost equally was the spewing of hatred in
Oh
words,
my God. Yes. Yes. Yes.
right? And seeing what we were seeing in messages. I mean, I can tell you there were people that were coming at me as I was just simply sharing voices of peace and humanity. And, yes, I am connected, of course, to a lot of people in Pakistan, especially as, my friendships and artist relationships have grown and whatnot. And I was just so touched to see, for the most part, at least of the people that I engaged with, it was not messages of hate and anger. It was messages of, we need to find peace. Where's our humanity? Where is, this sort of thing. And as I was sharing that, I received a handful of messages, sometimes from people I knew from my dance community, former students, families. We don't know you anymore. And, you didn't speak out at the initial attack. And I said, I'm sorry. You think that you know the totality of me through social media. I'm not going to pander and cater to your needs or expectations of me. What you see or don't see, that's not my fault. Meaning, even if I share something and you don't see it, I'm not going to sit here and qualify that. And then what you see, you're going to get angry about. And again,
Uh,
I even went back and I was like, what did I share in this moment? And again, it was messages of peace and humanity, but simply because it was coming in this moment from a Pakistani voice that I was sharing, it was seen as I've taken a side.
yeah,
And it was really, very
I'm so
jarring.
sorry. Yeah, I'm so sorry to hear this experience because but the world that we live in, I'm not surprised that you
Right,
experienced that.
right.
Because we are living in a very polarized world where we are looking, and not we, I mean, we, you and me, are looking for ways to kind of break through that hatred
Yeah,
all the time. But the fact that people like us are having to break through having to expend so much of our energy and time to try and counter narrative the hate just shows
exactly.
how much hate, how much effort, and sorry, this India, you're gonna
Oh,
have to deal with this kind of noise
it's
and stuff. I hope
beautiful.
it's not
It's
too.
beautiful.
Yeah, but the fact that that we have to expend energy to counter this hate often,
Yeah,
so often, and so like almost all the time, uh, and be on the defensive also all the time,
yeah,
is just testament to the fact that the people who are playing this dirty politics of hate
yeah.
are really at it all the time, and they're
Yes.
looking for excuses to kind of, I mean, yes, the Pahalgam attack was condemnable and it was awful and it was horrible to
Yeah,
see the young couples that were
yeah,
talking, that image of the woman in her on their honeymoon with her husband,
yeah,
husband's corpse lying next to her and all of that. It was just
yeah.
absolutely horrifying and terrible. But to say, I mean, this is the whole problem with the hate,
Yeah,
right? Like, to blame the actions of a few, I mean, to blame everybody, an entire people,
yeah,
an entire region, or an entire religion, or entire community, uh, uh, based on the actions
exactly.
of a few people. And the funny thing is that the people that do that, they are unable to do the same when it comes to looking
The other
inward.
side. Yeah, yes,
Yeah.
yes. And or how did we get here?
Yes, exactly. How did we get here?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, but
Yeah.
and or the
And
introspection and
I mean,
inward.
and to say, I can
Mm.
say that I probably know, not very well because I've distanced
Yeah,
myself from people like that now, but I probably know people who would hate on you,
yeah,
uh,
yeah,
just because you're Pakistani. Doesn't
totally.
matter that you had nothing to do with it. Doesn't matter that you were sitting in
Yeah,
California. Doesn't
yeah,
matter that you're a classical dancer who has no connection whatsoever
yeah,
with any sort of violent activity or anything like that. But yeah, just because
yeah.
you're Pakistani, and I do know that there must be people on the
Other
Pakistani side who
side,
feel that way about
absolutely.
Indians. So
Yeah,
I think for us it's very sad, and this is not just India, Pakistan. You can see it happening in various parts of the world. I mean, everywhere.
in
The
the
whole
US,
world is
within this democratic nation, forget
exactly
it.
in
It's
the
so
US,
polarizing.
Israel, and Palestine. I
Oh
mean,
God,
anywhere.
yeah,
It's just like let's just like punish an entire people for the actions of a few.
yeah,
It's become the standard acceptable thing to do.
absolutely. Hmm. Let's take another pause here. We'll take our last break here.
Yes.
Welcome back to Heartistry. This is Farah Yasmin Sheikh, and today I've been having a very like-minded and yet inspiring, stimulating conversation with Aranyani Bhargav. And Aranyani, I touched on this in your intro, and you just mentioned Palestine as well. I cannot let this conversation go by without talking about this initiative that you co-founded. To really raise awareness and even then through performances and otherwise raise funds for especially children in Gaza. Can you speak a little bit about this?
Yes. So this is pretty much all I'm doing at the moment because
Mm,
I think for a lot of people in the world, the what is happening in Gaza is consuming a lot of ordinary citizens, even as world leaders seem to be
yeah,
untouched by it. Um, but I remember when the October 7th attacks happened. Of course, there was such a you always feel a sense of so much sadness and tragedy when there's loss of civilian life. And it was terrible to
mm,
see that, Israeli civilians had
yeah,
lost their lives in this attack. And then the days that followed, um, I became more and more and more and more horrified, and I could just feel the sense of like foreboding. I would wake up in the morning and look at the news and say, "Oh my God, what's going on?" And it became very, very quickly clear that what was happening, what was being termed as a retaliation to the October 7th attacks, had gone way past the appropriate degree of retaliation um, within, I think, the first couple of days. Uh, you
100%.
know,
Yeah,
I mean, within the first 10 days, I think by October 17th, they had bombed the first hospital in Gaza.
yeah,
And that is the first war crime. Um, uh,
yeah.
I mean, not the first in Israel's history, but
Right,
since
right.
October 7th. Yeah.
Yeah,
And what really struck me at the time was that this wasn't a war. Everybody was calling it a war,
exactly.
and I was uh, the definition of war is not very complicated. It's very simple. There's two countries, they go to war, and the armies fight the war. Civilian casualties was something that, yes, collateral damage, civilian casualties, they have been over time since World War II been minimized, and in most modern wars are really, really minimal. But here, since there is no army in Palestine because
Yeah,
they haven't even been
yeah,
given the dignity of having their own state. There is no army, so they were sure they're combatants, yes,
yeah,
but the number of civilians that were being killed and the number of children, given the fact that Gaza is 50% of its population is children, it was bound to be, a lot of civilian casualties and a lot of minor civilian casualties. So what really struck me was the number of children that had already been killed within the first 1 week, and how those numbers they compounded, they doubled and tripled
yeah,
and quadrupled over the weeks. And it was just absolutely shocking to me, the fact that the world was watching this happen, and I think also I was a little bit stunned by the silence in the artist community, or what I thought was silence.
hmm,
And so, but I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do. I kept saying, I was talking with my family about it, and I was trying to figure out, like, what can I do from here,
mm,
sitting in India, all the way from here, sitting in India, and sitting in a country that is not. The signals that India was giving at the time were very ambiguous, like what the official government stand on this
mm-hmm.
issue is. Now
Yep.
it's much clearer, but at the time it was a little ambiguous. Um, uh, and so it was really difficult to kind of figure out what to do, but I knew
Yeah,
that I had to do something. And then I spoke to Donovan Robert, who is
yeah,
a dance scholar from South Africa, and he's been a huge supporter of my work,
Mm.
um, and a huge source of encouragement from afar. Like
Yeah.
he's watched me perform live once in 2010 or something,
Wow.
and
Amazing.
and then our friendship kind of grew from there because I think he was very taken by that performance, and we've just kept in touch. We literally just kept in touch through Facebook, and then slowly, as I started. This platform with another dancer called Recognizing Dance, where we started having more academic conversations about
Mm.
dance and dance history. At that time, again, Donovan got more involved. I was also in the middle, I found myself in the middle of this controversy around caste and Bharatanatyam.
Mm.
And I found myself in touch with Donovan then as well.
Okay.
Um, and I just picked up the phone one day and I called Donovan and we were talking about something dance related. And then as we were chatting, the conversation went to Gaza. And both of us were literally just, holding our hands in our head saying, what is going on and what
Yeah.
can we do?
Yeah.
And then this idea kind of birthed
Mm.
from there, where both of us said, why don't we just like get the artist community or the dancer community involved? Just let's see what happens. And
Yeah.
so as soon as I got off the phone with Donovan, I sent a message to every dancer I knew saying, listen, this is, do you got, what are your thoughts on what's happening in Gaza? I'm planning to start something called Indian Dancers for Gaza's Children. And all I need from you
Mm.
is for you to put your name out there in public as some as your show of solidarity. And
Yeah.
I wanted also for dancers to feel like they are able to use their art
Yes.
to express this whether you want to call it protest or solidarity or whatever it is. And so I asked them to also send a picture, a photograph of themselves expressing something that um, if someone in Palestine were to see, that they would be able to understand how you
Mm.
feel about what's happening there. So people sent a lot of photos of uh, that expressed fear, that expressed horror, that expressed sadness, that expressed hope, that expressed love. And it was very powerful. We had a little collage of
Mm. Mm.
photographs of classical dancers. There was some opposition to this by I think people who either didn't want to be involved in something like this um or didn't like me, or I don't know what it was, but
Mm.
there were people who said that, oh, you've just made this whole thing about yourselves and the classical dancers, and this helps nothing, no one but their egos and things like that. And I was like, really? But I'm not seeing it like that at all. I think it's very
Yeah.
courageous of dancers to put their faces and names, because
Yep.
we classical Indian dancers in particular, we're so apolitical. We're so careful to talk only about the accepted narratives.
Yes.
We steer
Yes.
clear of political things. We steer clear of controversial things. So for classical Indian dancers in India to put their names and faces to say, I think that what's happening in Gaza is wrong, and to say stop the genocide, and to say stop killing children, I thought it was really brave.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I wasn't looking at this as like, and in my opinion, even if it was something that people were doing for their own egos, so what?
Uh-huh.
Even if it's still doing something good. So
Yeah.
let it
There
massage
is
someone's
strength in
ego.
numbers. There is,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
And even yeah, and yeah, sure, of course, every bit of activism has a little bit of, you do put a little bit of yourself into it. You can call it investment, you can call it ego, you can call it, depends on how
Sure.
you look at it, right?
Sure.
But you can't do activism if you're like
Yeah.
removed from
If
it or
you don't
disconnected from it.
care, you wouldn't be doing
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And if you don't put your face and your name out there, what's the point?
Yeah.
You can't like anonymously sign a petition.
Yeah.
You can't
Yeah.
anonymously support a cause. What's the point of that?
Yeah.
So you have to put your name out there. You have to put your faces out there sometimes. So
Right.
if somebody wants to look at that like it's your ego, then you're welcome to
Yeah.
look at it that way. But the fact is, they put their name and face out there. You didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's something that can be said about that as well. So there
Right.
was opposition to it in the beginning, but the movement grew so rapidly.
Right.
Within the first month, there were about 200 signatories. By the second month, there were 400 signatories. Today, we have over 900 signatories from 31 different countries,
Mm,
and
mm.
not just dancers. Slowly became theater people, painters, poets, writers, academics, journalists, lawyers, businessmen,
Amazing. There you
sports people,
go.
athletes. So now it's
Yeah.
like everyone. You're on the list.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
your name's there on the solidarity list. It's just like, and so it was just it was
Yeah.
great. Slow, without even realizing, it became a global movement. And then we did 32 so far. Actually, now we've done 34 solidarity events,
Wow.
fundraisers, protests, and raised over $25,000 for the children of Gaza.
And
Yeah,
it is what's important about this is they become the catalyst for others to sometimes, again, even if you are feeling a certain way, you might be like you said, I'm not okay with what's happening, but I don't want to put myself out there. I don't want to talk religion. I don't want to talk politics. I don't, people who do that. But then when they
100%.
see others stepping up to say, no, I am taking a stance, owning that stance in all the ways that you mentioned, my photo, my voice, my name, my what have you. It empowers others to do the same and less alone, less in fear of taking that stance. And that's how a movement grows.
Absolutely. And I can tell you that I saw this with my own eyes. I
Yeah.
saw that because I thought I thought there was a deafening silence in India in the
Yeah.
artist community. And then it turned out that it wasn't silence at all. It's just that many
Yeah.
people like me didn't know what to do or how to or
Yeah.
what platform to use to speak up about it, and how to break out of the silence. And
Yeah.
there, and of course, there's so much fear as well to speak out about something like this when you have a very vulnerable um, uh, victim and a very powerful oppressor.
Yeah.
And the, yeah, so, and the world order is tilted in favor of the oppressor, not the victim. Then
Yeah.
it becomes difficult to speak up. Um,
Yeah.
but then I then when I put that call out there, I was really not expecting a response, but the response was
Mm,
so overwhelming, and I was like, "Oh my God, what I thought was silence was not silence at
yeah.
all. It was just someone waiting to speak out, but didn't know how or where."
Exactly.
And then IDGC was able to give them that space to break out
Exactly.
of the silence.
And you mentioned, I mean, this is what's occupying much of your time to present day. I mean, needless to say, again, you know, a ceasefire is supposedly in place. Obviously, we see and know it means nothing. I kind of knew that even when it came into existence based on the first one. Um, and yet, the irony, of course, is that it actually acts as a bit of a mute button, right? It's people who are choosing to in general not really engage in what's happening in their mind, it's over. It is far from over. If anything, it's now happening behind a smoke screen. And yet it doesn't take much to actually see still the
Yes,
devastation and the ongoing atrocities, let
yeah,
alone the clear violations of international law, the ceasefire, all of the things. The list could go on. So,
yeah.
all of that said, we're 2+ years in since October 2023, which again, we know this has been ongoing for Palestinians for decades prior to that. But what does it look like? You mentioned initially and at present, how are you continuing to, keep people engaged? What does your focus, your efforts, what do those look like at present?
Yeah, first of all, I want to agree with you, and I want to reiterate the fact that it's important that more and more of us say this, that the ceasefire is not real, and that it does, and that it's a mute button. That's a brilliant way of putting it, actually. It's a way for even people who are actively engaged with it,
Yeah.
with the Palestinian
Yeah.
cause, to say, "Oh, okay, ceasefire is in effect, and the violence has." I mean, for so many people, even in Gaza, that I'm in touch with, the fact that the ceasefire was announced was was a relief in the sense that, okay, at least it can't just, it's not going to be relentless. But I mean, IDGC has been putting out posts since the ceasefire was announced, saying that the ceasefire is not actually a ceasefire, that genocide has not ended. It's just become more silent.
Yeah.
But a quiet and silent genocide is still a genocide. So we have to keep speaking up. And you know what you're saying about the mute button affecting even the best of us. I mean, for the people that didn't care to begin with, for them it's the easiest because, as you said, they think it's over.
Yeah.
But for us who know that it's not over, I did feel a sense of complacency even
Totally.
in me,
Totally. Yes,
in
I would agree for the
initially.
same myself.
Yeah, and in fact, I've been speaking to other other friends and others people in solidarity on multiple occasions, including a meeting that we had yesterday,
Mm,
where I'm constantly saying, we're losing momentum, we're losing control, like we're losing momentum, we're
yeah.
becoming kind of relaxed
Yeah.
about this, but actually we need to be speaking up more right
Yeah.
now. So what I'm trying to do at the moment is I performed Lori just on
I saw
Saturday.
that. Yes.
Uh, yes, for
Mm,
a group of people at a wellness and peace building summit,
okay.
um, and spoke about what's happening in Gaza and what's happening and what IDGC is trying to do. Um, and I've been trying to reach out to I also gave a talk at a college in Bangalore. I'm also reaching out to medical colleges and journalism colleges, to try and speak to them because I thought
Mm,
fundraising is one aspect, and I think we've done quite a lot of it. And the $25,000 translates into about 20 lakhs,
okay.
which is how much? How much would that be in, like, how would you say that in America? 20
Uh,
lakhs would be
uh, a lack is it?
100,000. So 20,
Yes, yes.
100,000.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But 20, 100,000 sounds wrong.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, but anyway, that's how many rupees.
Yeah.
And so I thought let's give a bit of a break to the fundraising aspect of this
Yeah.
and focus more on the awareness, and reaching out to the younger people, like the students and a lot of students. So I gave a talk at a law school in um Hyderabad and performed
Mm,
Lori there and spoke to the law students about the
mm.
violations of international law and what they can do as law students. And I've been talking a lot about the BDS campaign and boycotting and all that because that is something that students can do. It's not always
Yep.
easy.
Yep.
I don't know how it is in the US, but in India, it's expensive to
Mm,
find alternatives to the
yes.
to
I would
because
say
everything that is affordable is compliant. I mean, it's
oh,
not
100%.
compliant,
You know what I
complicit.
really appreciated about sort of these entities that educate around the BDS movement is they have almost tiers of,
Yes,
and I think that it's a very important thing because I think people often feel it's an all or nothing situation.
yes,
And there is an understanding to a certain degree. The what I've appreciated, I try to boycott as much as I can, and I can certainly be doing more. But what I've gotten comfortable with is being like, okay, yes, I am going to cut these things out consciously and make those changes for myself, my family, encourage others to do that. And then there are some that, whether it's affordability or convenience, there are some that's, I think, kind of often that's
yes.
the pressure point that I feel we find here, I think.
Yeah.
And yeah, but I've
I
I've
mean, the laptops
appreciated. Yeah,
that we are speaking through are
literally,
complete. So
literally.
it's impossible to be completely compliant with the BDS campaign, but I think that's the whole point. That even those who are the biggest advocates of the BDS movement, they keep saying it's not that all or nothing. It's
Yeah,
as much as you can possibly do,
yeah,
and to be able to push yourself into that zone of discomfort. Uh, to the absolute extent that you can.
right,
And for students, that might mean um, eating the local canteen's food instead of ordering a Domino's pizza.
right,
And it's
right.
possible. It's possible to do that. Or, buying hammam soap instead of Dove.
Mm-hmm.
Those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me as well, I mean, like you said, there has been a complete overhaul of
Yeah.
products in my house that
Yeah.
used to be there all the time and now will not be seen at all. But there's only so much you can do. But it's important for us to tell the students that it's not that, because they say that, we can't donate because we're students ourselves,
Right.
we're paying back
Right.
student loans and things like that.
Yeah.
And so that's when the BDS movement comes in, and you can say
Yep.
that, yeah, but you don't, when you go to watch a movie, don't buy that Coke.
Exactly.
Buy a bottle of
Exactly.
water instead.
Yeah.
And or buy something else. Buy a fresh lime soda if you want to
Yep.
have something fizzy.
And it's been
Yeah.
beautiful as an interesting outcome too is um back in 2021 when there was a escalation
Hmm.
in the same in Palestine, and that's when there was a lot of speculation around Starbucks and the connection. And I wasn't like an avid Starbucks drinker, but if I'm on the road, that's the place you're going to
Yeah.
see, between San Francisco and Los Angeles. That's the place you can easily get coffee. Well, once you stop doing those things, you start figuring out alternatives. And what's been
Yes.
beautiful is, yeah, I haven't touched a Starbucks product since 21. And believe me, it is the easiest thing ever. And beyond me, we're seeing so many like Yemeni or Syrian coffee shops now opening. And, there's in
Oh, so nice.
Berkeley, there's a spot run by Pakistanis, Elaichi. And, like, so you're seeing, and even there's this great Pakistani restaurant very close to us. The Starbucks next to them closed. The Pakistani restaurant expanded into an old Starbucks. It was like, yes,
Ah,
so you're
good.
just seeing things like that where
Small
it just
victories.
makes you aware of what a monopoly is. Um,
Yes.
and then again, you look at the reason you even came to know of it and, in solidarity and support and whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, no,
Yeah.
I mean, I follow, of course, what you're doing. And I really do appreciate just your steadfastness, your commitment to it, and I think that that's even like you said, maybe now is the time to pull back a little bit on fundraising. But the beauty is that when and if you feel it's time to re-engage in that particular direction, you are
Mm.
bringing that many more people into the fold that
Yeah.
may be in a position to give that haven't already,
Exactly.
so
Exactly. And
you're
I think,
cultivating that.
yeah, I mean, I think I should qualify that statement by just saying that when I say that I was pulling back on the fundraising,
Yeah.
uh, I don't mean that the needs for funds is
Oh,
reduced.
absolutely.
I mean, it is devastating to open my emails or my Instagram
Yeah.
any time of the day or night, because just of the number of messages that you get from Palestinian people
Yeah.
that are asking for donations because they need to buy tents, and now winter's approaching, they need
Yeah.
clothes. It's
Ramzan
it's
is
it
coming again. Yeah.
it was raining. They're still
Yeah.
dealing with, like, having to rebuild. Even if they're not getting bombed every day, they are still they have to
Yeah.
rebuild their lives, and there's so much that needs to be done. And sometimes I do feel really angry when I get these messages, not at the Palestinian people, of course, but I feel so angry that there is so much that has been put on civil society.
Mm.
Um, I do feel pressured when I get
Yeah.
15 messages and all 15 messages are pleading with me for donations, and I feel frustrated, and I feel frustrated because I feel helpless because I cannot
Yeah.
donate to all 15 of them. And then if I
And
can't donate to all 15 of them, who do I donate to, and how do I choose which one I'm going to donate to and which one I'm not going to donate to? And the fact that I've been put in a situation that I
yeah.
have to make these choices, it really makes me enraged, because this
Yeah.
is not my job. My job is, I'm a dancer. My job is to dance.
Yeah.
It's somebody else's job, and somebody else is not doing that job. And that's
Yeah.
why people like you and me have to do this job. And
Yeah.
it's infuriating, because
Yeah.
who is supposed to be doing this job of making sure that the people of Gaza are getting what they need in the winter, that
Yeah.
they're not, that we're not going to have another winter where we're going to see frozen babies on our screen. Who's going to make sure it is? There are systems in place in this world, which we call the so-called civilized world. Systems have been put in place to
Yeah.
prevent such preventable deaths from occurring, but nobody is doing anything about it. And that's why it's fallen on ordinary citizens who have their own struggles and who have their own, own mouths to feed and all of that.
Right. Right.
We have, and there's a largest network in Bangalore of people
Mm.
that are making stickers, making paintings, making um, artwork and things like that, and constantly donating. And we have a group of people in Bangalore that are currently brainstorming a way to start a platform for people to adopt a family in Gaza, so that
Mm-hmm.
because of our experience of
Yeah.
spreading ourselves so thin, where we're just donating small amounts to
Right.
15
Is
different
the
families.
impact even being made? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Whereas if we make a public platform where we give people the option of adopting one family, and 8 or 9 people can adopt this one family, then
Mm.
9 people's donations can go to this one family. The family is secure. The people who are making the
Yeah.
donations are not spreading themselves out too thin. But
Right.
all these things take time, they take
Totally.
organization, they require technological skill as
The
well.
compliance,
And
this, that, the other, because you don't
yeah,
want to
yeah.
do something that then comes back to bite you and or is, you know,
Yeah,
there's,
you have to tie in all the loopholes to make sure that everything is legal, everything is blah,
yeah,
blah, blah. Yeah.
needless to say, this is not meant to be easy for the people who want to do these acts of
Of
compassion,
course. Yeah, yeah,
you know?
yeah. And that's
Yeah,
so sad. Like that says so
exactly.
much about
That's
this
the
the
infuriating part. Yeah,
yeah, and it
yeah,
shows what a pathetic state our humanity is in. It's
100%.
so sad. I feel so scared about the fact that we're raising kids in this world.
I know.
We're raising children in this world, and how do we raise them? Do we raise them to be hardened so that they can survive in a world like this? Or do we raise them how we are raised and then they'll just be miserable like how we are?
I know.
Like
Oh,
how do we do? Yeah.
oh,
And how do you dance through all of this? Like, what do you dance about? That's one of the other big dilemmas. And just like, where people invite me for dance performances, and I really find it very difficult to go and watch dance, especially if it's like happy. I'm just like, why are you so happy? What is there to be happy about? What are you dancing about that it made that? So why are you jumping around, prancing about so happily? There are children dying in Gaza. There are kids starving in Sudan. There are women being raped in Congo. Like, what are you dancing about?
yeah.
Sometimes I feel like that, but on the other hand, I'm also completely understand that you do need to, because I do also do
We
that.
need
Like I
to
do sometimes,
fuel the, yeah,
yes, and release all of that. But I mean, I
yeah,
do that. I have to confess. Sometimes I just put on my earphones
yeah.
at night and switch on some like
The
electronic
fact
dance
that that
music and
feels like a guilty pleasure to you, it just shows the depth of how much you are committed to this. And
yeah,
and it isn't easy. And again, it makes it that much more commendable what you're doing. And yeah, I wish we could see the light at the end of the tunnel. Um,
mm,
that's probably the most depressing component of it.
yes,
Um, but I know that we can't give up
yes,
because that's,
absolutely.
you know,
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, I think people like us were in too deep anyway to give up. I
yeah,
think we just
yeah,
have to have to fight it in ways, and then take a step back to recuperate, and then come
totally.
back to fight
And it's,
stronger, find other ways.
yeah. And sometimes in
Yeah.
those moments of taking the step back, even though I know it's the right thing to do to again, just get a little bit of breath, a little bit of distance, sometimes that also gives me discomfort,
Guilt.
right?
Yeah.
So it's a tricky place to traverse it all. But
Yeah.
well, Arinyani, I like I said, I continue to just be so inspired by your commitment to what you're doing, how you're using your art. And yet I recognize that again, you're not always even able to be in your artistic practice because, organizing, community organizing it's infinite labor,
Yes. Yes.
time,
It is. It is.
energy. It's in the
Yeah.
mind, in our bodies constantly.
Yeah.
So thank you
It
for
is,
what
it
you're
is
doing.
exhausting. Oh no.
Yeah.
And thank you for what you do. I mean, the fact that you're doing so much as well by even something like this, by giving me a platform to speak about this. Um, it's doing a whole lot because we are countering a narrative that is actively trying to suppress conversations like this.
Yeah.
So by just the fact that Heartistry is having a conversation about this and having a conversation about um, how conversations like this are not allowed to happen. That
Right,
itself,
right.
that itself is an act of resistance.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a t-shirt that says, wait, let me bring it
Oh,
and show it to you.
please, yes. In times of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I wear this t-shirt all the time because
Yeah.
I feel like we are living in a world of universal deceit where, the
Yeah.
the truth is being concealed and we're being and people are getting paid to tell lies and to shift the narrative, and people are also openly talking about the fact that they're going to pay people to
Yeah.
spread
Oh,
these
yeah.
lies, and
Yeah.
it's just like, yeah, the world has just become completely topsy-turvy where deceit has become like the norm. So in that case, if deceit is the norm and if deceit is then yes, just a simple act of telling the truth. I mean, Gandhi must be turning in his grave.
Hmm.
Satya and all of that, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
But a
may
simple
we
act of telling the truth,
exactly, exactly. Well, we will continue on our simple path of telling the truth.
telling the truth.
Simple.
Yes,
I think I've done air
yes.
quotes. I don't know how many times in this
I know.
conversation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
Uh,
the world we live in, where simple
yeah.
things have to be like,
Yeah.
everything has to be quoted. Yes.
It's so
Yeah.
true. But again, such a pleasure to be in conversation with you always. I look forward
Yes.
to crossing paths in person sometime soon, wherever, whichever side of which border, TBD.
Yes. Yes.
But I
Absolutely.
I really do hope to have that shared time and
Yeah,
space
yeah,
with you
yeah.
again. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And we talked about this, that
Yeah.
artistry aside, we of course stay in touch and keep doing what we're
Absolutely.
doing. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and so much love to you and all the best with all the work that you're doing with your dancing and with the artistry podcast and with everything. And I hope that I mean, I know that we will stay in
Yeah,
touch
we
and
will.
we'll keep talking. Yeah.
And same back to you for all of it. And for now, thank you
And
for
thank
your
you.
time.
Thank you for having me.